All right, ladies and gentlemen. So as you can see, I'm not here today, but I did want to leave you guys with a walkthrough video of how to make the first three parts in Autodesk Fusion 360. If you didn't do it yesterday, the first thing you're going to want to do is click Show Data Panel and create a new project that we'll call Practice Parts. Once that's created, go ahead, double click on that project, and then you can close out this data panel. So for the first part, we're going to go ahead and create a new component. I'm just going to call this part 1 and click OK. Now remember, every 3D model has to start with a two-dimensional sketch. So I'm going to come up here and click Create Sketch and just pick a surface to create the sketch on. It doesn't really matter at this point which one we use. And so for part 1, we've got a couple different tools to choose from: line, rectangle, circle. I'm going to go ahead and go with line and just quickly draw out this shape. We don't need to be too concerned with size or anything like that at this point. I'm going to take a little more time than I did yesterday in class and get some nice straight right angles. Oh, looks like I missed there just at the end. So I'm going to come up here to my perpendicular constraint and go ahead, click two lines to make that a nice even right angle. Another important thing you want to do is always start at the origin when you make a new sketch for the first time. Because remember, everything needs both size and location. If you start at the origin right here in the middle, that will lock your location in. So now I'm going to come up here and click Sketch Dimension and add some measurements to this guy. So we know that he's 1.5 inches tall. This guy right here is 1 inch, 0.5. And I'm not going to narrate all of these measurements. I'm going to go through a little bit quickly because all of these measurements can be found on the worksheet. You're just going to have to pull them off of that isometric sketch. Now, if I want to dimension across this whole guy, I'll just go ahead and click one corner, click another corner, and then I can bring my mouse down and add my overall width. You can see it got a little funky there. That's fine. All I'm going to do is keep working on adding those dimensions, and eventually, once we get them all done, it'll go ahead and take shape. The other thing we want to do is, you can see we've still got some blue lines here. Ultimately, by the end, all of those blue lines will turn black, like you see here. That means this part is now fully constrained. I can go ahead and click Finish Sketch up top, and it's time to make him 3D. We've got two options. We can either click Extrude and type in our size, or we can go ahead and use the Press Pull tool under Modify, click our shape, and drag him into 3 dimensions. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the depth of this guy. Next up, we need to add a little shelf right here on the side. So I'm going to click Create Sketch and click this side. Let's see, looking at that shelf, he's a rectangle that is 0.25 inches tall, 1.5 inches wide. So I'm going to go ahead, draw a quick little rectangle and make him 0.25 by 1.5 inches. You can see he's still blue, and that's because every feature has to have both size and location. We've got our size added, but we don't have our location indicated. Looking at that isometric sketch, I can see that the distance from the shelf to the front is 0.5 inches, and the distance from the shelf to this edge, That looks like it's going to be 0.75 inches. Our sketch turned black. That means he's fully constrained. We're good to go ahead and finish the sketch. And again, I'm going to use the press pull tool. Click there and drag him out. It looks like 0.75 inches. And that's it. Part 1 is done. I'm going to go ahead up here, save it as practice part 1. Now your worksheet also says in your notebook to record the following information: surface area, mass, volume, and center of mass. If you come over here to your browser and right-click on the component, you can come down to Properties, and then all of that information is right here. We can see our surface area, we can see our mass, we can see our volume, and down here we can see our center of mass in the X, Y, and Z direction. So you're going to want to go ahead and record that information down in your notebook. On to part 2. To make a new part, I'm just going to come up here, click the plus for a new design. And if my screen looks a little different than yours, that's because I'm working on my laptop and I've customized some of the settings. Now, looking at part 2, there's a very important note down in the bottom where it says all dimensions are in millimeters. So we're working with a metric part. I'm going to come here to my browser and go to Document Settings. And where it says Units, I'm going to click that icon. And then I can come over here on the right side and change inches into millimeters. Click OK. And now we're good to create our component. Create new component. I'm going to call this guy part 2. And just like before, everything is going to start with a sketch. So I'm going to create a sketch. And let's draw him out. I'm going to use the line tool again, starting in my origin. Just going to draw out my rough shape nice and quick. And now it's time to set some dimensions. I can see that my overall width is 60 millimeters. My overall height from top to bottom is 40 millimeters. And then I'm going to go through and fill in these measurements from here. Again, I'm not going to narrate all of these measurements. You're going to want to practice pulling some of these measurements from the isometric sketch on the worksheet. Going through, it looks like we are almost fully constrained. And there we go. All of our lines are now black. We are now fully constrained. I can finish the sketch and use the press pull tool to drag him into 3 dimensions. Looks like a depth of 30 millimeters. Now, this guy, instead of having a shelf on the side, he's got a hole running through, but we actually make it the exact same way. I'm going to come up top to Create Sketch, click on that side where I want to put the hole, and I'm going to use the rectangle tool to draw a quick rectangle. My dimensions for this guy, he looks like he's 15 millimeters wide, 10 millimeters tall, and he's still blue because I still need to give him a location. So looking on our sketch, from the front of the part to the edge of the hole, 3 millimeters, and from the bottom of the part to the bottom of the hole, looks like he's 5 millimeters. All of our lines are black. We're fully constrained. I'm good to finish sketch and use my press pull tool. Now I'll click on that rectangle, and last time we dragged him forward. This time I'm going to drag him backwards into the part. You can see our distance is now negative, and the part lights up red, indicating that it's going to be cutting a hole out of the material. We can also, on this right side, see Operation Cut. When I'm pulling him forward, the operation is listed as join. And those are the two basic types of operations that we do. Join means we're adding material. Cut means that we are removing material. There's a couple other tricky ones that we'll get to down the road, but join and cut are the two basics, and you can really accomplish most things using those. And like you can see, our part's now done. I can go over here to the browser, right-click, open my properties, and record my surface area, mass, volume, and center of mass. I'm going to go ahead and save this part as practice part 2. And move on to my third part. And now, before we go on to the third part, you can see here, if I open up the data panel where we had that project, we can now see all of the parts that we're saving into this project. We can also see the times that they were created. And a handy feature is we can access different versions. I can see that practice part 1 was last updated 5 minutes ago by me, and it's when it was created. As we work on more complicated parts and we undergo version 1, version 2, version 3, sometimes taking a step backwards and looking at past versions of the parts can be useful if we make changes that we don't necessarily like. So I'm going to go ahead and close the data panel and move on to part number 3. Looking at our note on the bottom, it says that all dimensions are in inches. I'm going to double check right here in my browser that we are in inches. Create a new component. Call this guy part 3. And go ahead and start my sketch. Now there's a couple different approaches we could take from this guy. We could draw him from the bottom and build up, draw him from the front, or draw him from the side. I think I'm going to go ahead and just draw him from the side. So I'm going to start with this L shape right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and add some dimensions to him. Let's see what we got. 3.5 inches wide, 2.5 inches tall. This top little shelf here is 1 inch, and the height of these front legs is 1 inch as well. Finish, and now I'm going to use my press pull tool to build him into 3 dimensions. Now the overall dimension is not listed here, but I can do some math and determine that that overall dimension is 2.5 inches. Now it looks like we need to make 2 cuts, 1 cut on the top and 1 cut on the front. So I'm going to start with my top cut. I'm going to click Create Sketch and click the top. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw a rectangle from right here to right here. And you noticed that when I drew that rectangle, it goes from the little plus sign to the X when I went onto the edge. And that's going to line that rectangle up right on the edge. We really like that. So I can add some dimensions. From here to here is 1/2 inch. And from here to here is 1/2 inch. And because we got those 2 X's, my left and right side are already lined up with the edges of the top of that part. Finish, press pull. Now I'm going to click that cut, drag him down, and bring him down -0.5 inches. I'm going to come up here to my view cube, swing around to my front by clicking one of the corners, and now it's time to add the second cut. I'm going to come right here, start a new sketch, and draw a new rectangle. Get that X right on the side there. Let's see if we take a look at this rectangle. His depth is 1.5 inches. He's got a width of 0.5. And he's located 1 inch from the side of the part. All of our lines are black. That means we're fully constrained and good to go. I'm going to finish, press pull. Then I'm just going to click that shape. And I'm just going to drag him all the way through because we want that cut to go all the way through. And now we're done. Come up here to save. Practice part 3. And click save. I can come over here to my browser, right click, and view my properties to get that surface area, mass, volume, and center of mass. That's it for today. I just wanted to walk through the first 3 sample parts. Hopefully I will see you guys on Wednesday, and have a great day.